You are listening to the JJS Podcast. Up to this point, the most successful companies around the world have had entire departments made up of full-time employees dedicated to providing marketing communication support, leaving every other company without those resources at a distinct disadvantage. Well, the world has changed, and we have to change with it. That's why I'm going to take my 15 years of experience of managing marketing communication strategies for some of the biggest brands in the world and share that knowledge with you so that it can improve your business and your life. So if you're a business professional or an entrepreneur who wants to learn how to deploy the right strategies given your position and the position of the audience you're trying to reach, you're in the right place. Hey guys, welcome to the JJS Podcast. I apologize, I've been out for a little bit. Something tragic happened in my life. I lost someone very, very close to me, and so I've been a little out of sorts, as you can imagine. I was going to do an episode like this already, but I think especially now, and also in light of everything that's going on with Joe Rogan and the Spotify issue, and Whoopi Goldberg, and even Jeff Zucker's resignation to some extent. In light of all those things happening, I wanted to do an episode on this topic, and that is truth and opinion. Okay. Now, I do every once in a while, if you've been following the show, I do kind of one of these kind of spacey, off the wall subjects that don't really have much to do with marketing communications, or that is tenuously related to it. This is kind of one of those episodes. This is somewhat related to marketing communications, but it's kind of a general episode that I just wanted to do in response to things that are going on. Now, you know me, I always like to give a disclaimer. This is all purely my opinion and analysis. I have no data to back up any of this, so don't ask me for it because I don't have it. This is all purely my opinion and insight. So what I'm getting increasingly concerned about as a citizen of this country and of this world is that people seem to be having more and more difficulty understanding how truth and opinions work. So something you got to understand about the truth. The thing about the truth is no one completely agrees with it. No matter who you are, or how intelligent you are, or how informed or educated you are about anything, the fact of the matter is there's aspects of reality of the truth that you are either unaware of or are unwilling to accept for whatever reason. Because it doesn't serve your interests or because you just don't like it. But rest assured, there are aspects of the truth that you currently do not believe. And that's true for everyone. No one completely agrees with the truth. Because the truth isn't ideological or political. It's indifferent to what you want or what you think the way things should be. It just simply is. And people have a hard time with it. They're having a harder and harder time with that nowadays. So a simple way to think about it, and the way I've always thought about it, which I thought others did too, but apparently I was wrong, is that there's three things. There's perception, there's reality, and then there's the actuality. And I'll explain what I mean. Perception is what you think is going on, given your biases and your experiences, and just in general the way you view the world. Reality is what's observable by more than just one person, more than just you, and indicates what is happening. The actuality is what's actually happening, regardless if anyone observes it or measures it or interprets it correctly. So there's perception, reality, the actuality. And the way it's supposed to work is we're supposed to strive for knowledge and knowing the truth of everything, right? Strive for it. We won't ever actually get there. And that's reality, and that's to give us a glimpse at the actuality, what is likely actually going on, and that is supposed to shape your perception. But what's been happening is people who are in positions to do so are segmenting out aspects of reality that they don't find favorable, that they don't like, which denies us any possible hope of getting a glimpse at the actuality and begins to impact people's perception anyway, in one way or another. And so we're getting further and further away from understanding the actuality and the truth of things because, essentially, to simplify it, we are enthusiastically killing objectivity. We don't like objectivity anymore. No one likes objectivity. When somebody says they're trying to be objective, it's often viewed as a negative thing. People don't want anyone to be objective. Our institutions of objectivity have certainly eroded. I think most people understand that. I don't think it's up for debate anymore that we don't really have objective journalism at the mainstream level anymore. And I think that's at the root of a lot of our problems right now. I think people don't truly understand how much of a crisis that is, that we don't have any source of objectivity, because that grounded us. That used to center our conversations on mutually understood facts, and we would proceed from there. And the service that provided was, we could come to a consensus on things, right? We'll never agree on certain things, but there were certain things we could come to consensus on and come together on because there was this source of objectivity there that would tell you the truth about that didn't help one side, and then they tell you other truths that didn't help the other side, right? We don't have that. There's no one individual or one outlet or one institution anymore that does that. I mean, think about it. Can you think of anything? And again, this is going to be lost on people who are committed ideologues, and because of their ideology, they believe, well, this X and Y Z media outlet is objective, when really it's just because it completely lines up with their ideological narrative, and they're convinced that they're right about everything. And so in their mind, that media outlet is being objective. That's not who I'm talking to. If that's you, no offense, but I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people, to the adults, to understand what's really going on. That all of the media outlets have chosen a side, and for business reasons, because they've. If I had to guess, I would guess it's because they've realized, well, a lot of businesses realize that you can't straddle. The more command people have, and the more choices they have in the media they select, these media outlets are operating more and more like other businesses, and they're just choosing a niche, and they're just choosing a demographic and an audience, and then appealing to that audience to grow the market share, and that's how they're operating. That's my best guess is why that's happening, but it is happening. I mean, there is no true objectivism anymore, and that's a huge problem, because this is what happens when you start silencing a certain narrative or a certain group. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're not diminishing the impact or the scope or the breadth of that narrative. You're actually elevating it. You're actually, because people recognize what's going on. No one's being clever about this, right? No one's being clever about trying to seem objective, and they're not. Everyone sees through it. And so what's happening is people are retreating more and more into their own perceptions, their own opinions that are shaped by their biases, shaped by their experiences, traumatic or otherwise, and they're not understanding the truth of things anymore, the knowledge of things anymore. They're just clinging to their opinions. And everyone's doing this across the ideological spectrum. I'm not picking on one group or another. Everyone's doing that because these other areas, sectors that used to be viewed as objectively accurate are being encroached upon by people's opinions because they can't trust any source anymore. If you tell somebody something, even if it's true, but you actively, deliberately, consciously ignore other aspects of the truth that you don't find helpful or productive, people distrust you. And they won't trust anything you say, even if what you're saying is true. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if somebody worked for you and only told you 25% of the truth all the time and left out stuff all the time, you would never trust that person, right? But that's what's happening. Everyone's doing that. No one's telling the whole truth. They're keeping out the parts that don't benefit their narrative or benefit their ideology or benefit their agenda or their wallets or something like that. And so no one can be trusted anymore. And so that's a huge crisis. Okay? I mean, that's a big problem because when you talk about something, and whatever we'll talk about what Joe Rogan got so much trouble for about the vaccines, when you're talking about one aspect of the truth about the vaccines, that yes, it can dramatically reduce your chances of being hospitalized and of dying, and provides protection, but then you leave out other aspects of the truth about the virus or about the vaccines or whatnot, and people detect that, they distrust what you're saying, the true thing you're saying about the vaccines. Okay? And so what happens is someone fills that void and fills that space, because not only are people doing that where they're saying one aspect of it and then leaving out these other aspects, which, to Joe Rogan's point and other people's point they've made, there's things that come out later that prove to be true. I mean, that hurts your credibility even more. It'd be one thing if no one ever found out these things, about the possible origins and all these things that you've tried fervently to conceal, that it appears that that's what it appears that you're doing, and then it comes out later. I mean, you lose all credibility. Okay? And so when you do that, and then on top of that, try to shut out people or impose your will on them, what you're saying is, I don't care about what's true. All I care about is my opinion, and my opinion's more important than yours. My will is more important than yours. That's what you're doing. And so somebody else can come along with incorrect information or misinformation or what have you, and appeal to that sense of self-sovereignty people have, that desire to be free, that need to be free and have personal freedom, and appeal to that, and then they'll trust that individual more, because at least they're not trying to actively, overtly do anything to them. Okay? If you have somebody who came from a country where their freedoms were completely destroyed, and they emigrated to the United States to escape that, and then you tell them, shut up and do what I'm telling you to your own body, that's not going to work. And people take freedom very seriously. They will die for their freedom. They will die even if you're correct and you're trying to tell them to do something that would help them or save their life. The fact that you're violating their sense of freedom and putting them in this position where they have a choice to either live or be free, a lot of people are going to choose freedom every time if you make that the choice. And so if we're going to live in this world where we're all verbally responsible to each other at the medical level, to the point that, well, what you're saying has, implications for people's medical decisions. Well, then somebody can turn around and say to you, the fact that you did that and put those people in that position where you made it a choice between freedom or their life, and they chose freedom and they died, well, then I could say you're responsible for that too. Your message got these people killed, right? But if I can't say that, which it would not be reasonable for me to say that, well, then it's not reasonable for you to say, well, because this person shared XYZ information, it's jeopardizing these people's lives. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If your messaging style did not turn out well for people, even if in your mind it makes total sense and it's like, why won't you listen and this and that, that's irrelevant. If your messaging style led to people making decisions that end up badly for them, you are just as responsible as Joe Rogan. Right? I mean, how can you argue against that logic? I think the reality is we are overemphasizing the significance of opinions. An opinion is just that. If an opinion happens to be right, that's a coincidence. That's happenstance. An opinion doesn't make something right. In fact, opinions are useful in the sense that they give us an opportunity to seek the truth, to either vet or invalidate or support an opinion that we heard. That's the value of opinions. The problem is people who overemphasize the significance of opinions because they shape their entire narrative and their entire ideologies around certain people's opinions that they value for whatever reason, are trying to silence other opinions because they feel like, well, opinions are very powerful. Opinions become fact for people. That should not be our approach. Our approach should be, if you disagree with something that Whoopi Goldberg said or Joe Rogan said, and I think this ties back to Jeff Zucker in some ways, because I don't think Jeff Zucker resigned because of some relationship. I think he resigned because the ratings were abysmal. And the ratings were abysmal because everyone could see through what was happening at that network, that what they were doing was taking the approach of silencing people or ridiculing them or diminishing them or whatnot, when really what you should be doing is, if you disagree with someone, you should confront them. You should confront Joe Rogan. You should confront Whoopi Goldberg on their platforms that they have that you feel like they need to be very responsible for. And then challenge their notions, and then challenge their ideas, and challenge what they're saying. But if you silence them, or if you censor people, or all this, you're just going to raise suspicion in other people's minds that, hey, maybe they're telling the truth because they don't want these people don't want them to be heard. And that might be what you're doing at all. What you're trying to do is make sure that their opinions and their information don't reach impressionable people or whatever, but you're having the opposite effect. And so I think we need to come back to an understanding of how the truth works and how opinions work. Okay? Opinions are not truth. Truth is not completely agreed upon by anybody's opinions. The whole truth. And that's how it works, and that's how it will always work. I mean, that's the truth. So, and this is something that, going back to marketing communications, this is something marketing communications people actually understand intimately. They deal with it all the time. In fact, a good marketing communications person can't ever directly lie to you. They can't. They're not supposed to, at least. What they're supposed to do is take the most attractive aspect of something and promote that and get that in front of you. The true attractive aspect of anything, and package it creatively and get that in front of you. That's their job. It's not to lie to you. And they understand that lying or giving misinformation or whatnot is disastrous. You can never do that. You can only tell aspects of the truth, so to speak. But that's not what journalists are supposed to do. And that's not what objective institutions are supposed to do. They're not supposed to silence one half of an argument and never hear it contested. You're supposed to understand, start from a starting point that the truth is not ideological. If you're on the left, you're not right about everything. If you're on the right, you're not right about everything. You can't be. That would mean you're omniscient, and you're not. So start from that starting point that the truth doesn't have a side, and pursue objectivity so that we can all gain more knowledge and get a glimpse at the actuality of things. Because if you do that, that will go much farther for a lot of people. If they hear you say something that betrays a political narrative or ideology they initially thought you upheld, but you said it because you know it's the truth, they'll trust you more. Every time. So that's just my 2 cents. I just think we need to get back to a place where we can be honest with each other and really try to be sources of objectivity, since we know that no institution is going to do that for us anymore. They've abandoned that completely. They've abandoned that approach. We need to try to be sources of objectivity so that it increases not only our credibility, but our own understanding and knowledge of the world. Try to focus. If you're on the left, I would advise that you talk more about something that you believe that most people on the left don't. And same thing if you're on the right. Talk more about that stuff so that people see that you're not locked in this little box of approved talking points, that you're actually somebody who can think independently for yourself, and that will go a lot farther with them than somebody just being able to put you in a box. Oh, they're this or they're that. It's on us to do that because no institution is going to do that anymore. We've lost that, unfortunately. So take that for what you will. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment if you're watching on YouTube. And as always, good luck out there. Hey, I want to thank you guys for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, be sure to review and rate it so that other people who are interested in these topics can easily find it. Be sure to share it and tune in every Wednesday for a new episode of the JJS Podcast. Thanks again for listening, and remember, communication without strategy is just noise. Until next time.